Hocus pocus. Welcome. It's my very spooky greeting for a very spooky time of the year. So, with that being said, hi, hello. I'm Steph. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel for the first time. The name of my channel is Cursed or Crushing It, and here on my channel, I like to review books and rate them on a scale of cursed to crushing it. So, before I get in today's book review, I do want to just kind of go over a couple of housekeeping things. So I'm still quite new in my channel and I am still figuring out what exactly I want to do and what exactly I want for this channel. So I'll just share my goal with you guys, my viewers. So the primary thing that I want to do is I want to, as I'm really getting this off the ground, I really want to do consistent uploading. That is a goal of mine. And I try not to put too many goals and stipulations and stuff on my hobbies just because they're hobbies and I do them for enjoyment, but I also really like succeeding and doing well at things. So I do want to work on my discipline with running this YouTube channel. And one of the things I intend to do is to upload regularly. What do I mean by regularly? I plan to upload one full-length video, so a 20-30 minute video every week with a book review. And then I also want to upload 1 to 2 shorts every week. So far that's been one, just because I'm kind of amassing some B-roll and putting together some ideas for shorts that I want to do, mostly about a bookish kind of aesthetic and different kinds of reading aesthetics that I partake in throughout the year, especially as the seasons change. I love fall time reading, especially when it's cold and dark out. Everyone loves that though, I'm just like everyone else with that. However, especially summertime reading, wintertime reading, I have been known to take books to ski resorts and just kind of hang out at the top of the mountain on the lodge when I start getting tired and just kind of resting up and reading that way. So, there's some varied content that I plan to make, mostly in the form of shorts. If I do have an idea for a full-length video that isn't necessarily about a book, I will try it out just to see how it goes. But I really envision this staying squarely on book reviews. That being said, I know that especially in the booktube and bookish social media places, people read a lot of books really quickly. And I'm going to be here and just be totally honest with you guys. I do not read books that quickly. It takes me... Okay, this is in the realm of some of those really fast bookish readers that are going through 4 or 5 books in a week. I can really only get through 1 or 2 books a week, maximum, and that is directly dependent on the length of the book. Obviously, I feel like that's pretty standard for most people. But so just for reference right now, I'm reading currently The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, so the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. I do plan to give a review on that. That book is about 600 pages. I am also reading Bury Our Bones in Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, which I'm also going to be rating, and those vampires will go on our vampire ranking list. That one is about 530 pages. So these are 2 big books that I've been working on right now. I am doing kind of a deeper read with them. I'm annotating them as I go along just to kind of get my thoughts together to be able to report live reactions, or at least the reactions that I had live while I was reading it. So realistically, right, I'm not going to get through 1,100 pages of text in a week. I'm probably not even going to get through that in 2 weeks because I work a full-time job. So I plan to try and post weekly or every other week, but with the understanding that I'm not just gonna shirk all of my responsibilities in order to run this channel. At least not right now. Maybe in the future, if I have 50,000 subscribers or something, maybe that would change in the future. I'm not saying that this is a never. I am saying that currently right now, it's just not practical for me to do that unless I'm straight up lying to you guys, which I'm not in the business of lying to people, especially not in this way about a hobby that I like. So yes, as far as the schedule goes, I'll try to do it weekly or every other week. part of the reason I started this channel was to help hold myself accountable for the reading that I do want to do, because I really enjoy it. And I do like reading lots of books and, picking up new books immediately when I finish other ones. So, there's pros and cons to that. And I'm just going to do my best. So with that, I will say that there are a few videos as I'm getting my channel going and really trying to get on this upload train while also reading 1,100 pages worth of book right now. There are a few reactions that I've done where I'm retro reacting to the books that I presented. They were books that I read in the weeks leading up to me actually creating this channel. So they aren't fresh reads, but they are recent reads that I've read in the last year. And speaking of my reading log and the things that I'm reading, the order in which I'm reading them, I have completely forgotten to mention up until now that on my channel and my bio there, I do have a link to my Storygraph. If you would like to add me on Storygraph and if you would like to be a Storygraph friends with me, please feel free to do so. You can see what I'm reading right now, and then that'll give you an idea of what's coming up next. I don't use the star ratings very often on there. If I feel very strongly about a book, I'll use the star ratings, but otherwise I pretty much just check in when I start it and when I finish it. I don't use Storygraph to its full potential, but it is my favorite book tracker. So if you would like to see what's coming up, consider becoming my friend on Storygraph. I would love to see what you're reading, and I will say when I see that a lot of people on my Storygraph have read a book that I'm considering, then I'll usually go for it. So, send me a message, drop me a comment if you do follow me on Storygraph, and I would love to see what kinds of things you're reading. And if I end up reading something that I pulled because you read it on Storygraph, then I will shout you out. So I guess that's kind of a cool incentive. Get a shout out from someone with a whole 10 followers, I don't know. I'll be over here celebrating you and or cursing your name if it's a terrible book. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. Okay, so let me grab the book. I'm so excited for this week. I'm going to be reviewing for you a glorious book called Morning Glory Milking Farm.
Excuse me?
This is by C.M. Nacasta. Now, this book, I read it on Kindle, so I'm going to be referring to my trusty sparkly pink Kindle for quite a bit of this. So we're going to stay here, Kindle, and let's pull up our annotations. Okay. So, Morning Glory Milking Farm, we'll put up a thumbnail of it. Put it up next to my head, please. Morning Glory Milking Farms, as you can tell, from just the cover of the book, we're going to be getting into some really interesting stuff here, right? So what is it about this cover, right? First, of course we have the title. I do love the font for this title. It's kind of like a whimsical font. But then the fact that the subline for right at the top there is a monster bait romance, ugh. You freaking kidding me? That's hilarious. I love it. I love it so much. On the front, as you can see, we have our couple in love, right? We have a minotaur. Surprise, surprise. This book is about minotaurs. I will not be going into huge spoilers for this book, but it is 250 pages. So take that how you will. We have our beautiful minotaur. And then we also have this glorious human woman who, if you look closely, she is spilling a pail of what we might ask. I don't know. I think officially it's supposed to be milk because it's coming out of a milk canister, but aren't minotaurs men? I guess I'll just leave it there. But yeah, no, you can tell they're obviously in love. And, as the rule of romance books go, this is our couple. Welcome. So before we really get into this book, there are two known enemies that I should identify in here. Number one is the word squelch. That is a word in this book, and it's awful, and it is the biggest enemy of this entire book. The second is the fact that, like I mentioned before, this book is 250 pages. Usually for books like this, and like I'm not going to call myself like an expert on this, but I've read Squeak, I've read Basted, I've read Unhinged, I've read Ice Planet Barbarians. I have read enough like really smutty romance that's just written kind of like for the meme and for the ability to make puns, that when I saw that this book was 250 pages, I was honestly kind of appalled. Like the kind of the rule that you get a lot in these sentient object smut things, especially like the Squeak and Unhinged of it all. These books tend to be like maximum 75 pages or so, maybe 50 pages. Like they are not long books. And that is kind of a sin against this genre. Okay. I forgot to set a mood because I need a brighter mood than what this book is going to give me. So we are doing balsam cardamom. Balsam? I should probably know how to pronounce that from the God of the Woods review, but we're bumping Balsam and Cardamom's Candle. Costco. Also, while I'm lighting this, if any of you out there had issues recognizing me when I first popped up because of my new glasses, don't worry. It's still me. It's still Steph. I'm still here for you. Anyway, just going right into it from there, I just want to give you an overview of kind of what this book is and where we start out so that you can make your own choices about whether or not you want to commit to this book. I will say I do think that it's very worth the read, 250 pages or not. I did cry reading this book, so take that for what you will. So the overview of this book, I would say that like first and foremost, because my expectations were set on the level of like Squeak or Unhinged going into this book, I will say that one of the biggest things that like really surprised me as I started this and as I started moving through it was that this book has a surprising amount of plot. Like a very surprising amount. There's a lot of story to be had and not as much in like the smut department as I was really thinking that there would be. We start out on like a really surprisingly relatable note, considering that the front of the book literally had a picture of a minotaur. So our relatable like content here, or I guess our relatable gal, our female main character is named Violet. Violet is a recent graduate. And she has, this is so realistic, you guys, from relatable. She's a recent graduate with lots of college debt, and she is threatened, she is under the threat financially of moving back in with her parents because she cannot afford to live by herself without getting a job. And wouldn't you know, the degree that she has, all of the jobs in that field are like super competitive, you need experience, and she can't get one. Like, for having like a minotaur on the cover of the book, like this started out for me on an extremely relatable note. Here's Violet, our truly like normal person. And so in order for Violet to avoid having to move back in with her parents, which she really doesn't want to do, she gets a job with a local pharmaceutical company. And when we first like meet Violet and we're really starting to get our finger on who exactly she is and what she's about, Violet is utterly entranced with this training video that she's watching for her brand new job. She applied online, she was accepted preliminarily, and she's starting to do the training steps. The first of which is watching this training video. And Violet... she takes this very seriously. She is entranced with this training video. She watches it over and over and over again. She describes like pulling back the like cursor or like little button on the video to like rewatch scenes over and over again and like focus on every single little thing. There is a fox lady in the video that's kind of like coaching them through and like showing them what to do. And I highlighted a quote here because it's hilarious. So she's watching this video, and the person in the video says, "Once your room is set up and your client arrives, you'll need to ensure the collection unit is loaded and your client clipboard is in order. Then there's only one thing left to do." Her smile had widened, showing a row of blinding white teeth, offset with long, sharp, completely inhuman canines, and her hand raised, gripping the erection without a moment of hesitation. "Start milking." Like, Okay. Okay, Fox Lady. Yeah, we can do that. We're gonna start milking. I don't know. This one made me laugh really hard because that's just ridiculous. I don't know. And so from there, we're gonna like just flash forward to Violet's first day on the job. So she's finishing watching this video that she is completely spellbound by. She goes to bed that night thinking about like, oh, after I get this job and after I start working here, I won't have to buy generic orange juice or like day old bread because I'm going to have a job that's giving me money, which like that really hit home, honestly, on illustrating her poverty by being like the generic orange juice and the day old bread because that stuff is usually so much cheaper. But, I thought it was a really like considering what this book is, like, I don't know, illustrating her poverty by having her buy these specific things and like having these thoughts about like, once I get my job, I won't necessarily have to do this. I won't have to count pennies to go and afford a crappy coffee from the chain down the street. I think it's a surprising way to see her poverty illustrated because of the nature of the book. And I'm impressed by it, honestly. Like, go off, queen. But so from there, we kind of flash forward to her first day on the job. And so this first day on the job, she's receiving hands-on training. And we immediately find out that she is taking notes, capital T, capital N. This girl is bringing her notebook around with her and her pen, and she is writing all kinds of stuff. She is reading the employee handbook backwards and forwards. She's memorizing this stuff. She is doing the most. She's going to be the best employee ever. At least that's what she like intends to do. And so her first day on the job, when she is learning from her colleague on how to do the job, like actually, hands-on, because it's the milking farm. I do have a quote highlighted here from this training. So her trainer says that if there was a bigger mess to clean, that bit relayed with a conspiratorially cocked eyebrow. She was to punch in the cleaning code into the keypad in the hallway and flip over the red circle on the door before leaving, a signal to the janitorial associate who would respond and a warning for the next technician that the room was not ready for clients. So they do seek to make this quite sterile, even though at the end of the day, they are manually stimulating minotaurs to collect milk. So the company that runs this like milking farm and this like whole milking operation, they effectively make this universe's answer to Viagra. And they need minotaur semen in order as like one of the active ingredients in this. So it gets like sterilized like penicillin does, it gets sterilized out of the yeast that are making it. And so similar to that kind of thing where you're taking the byproduct from one organism and using its purpose for another organism, they are taking the product, the semen, out of one organism, the minotaur, and sterilizing it and making it suitable for use on another organism, humans, to become erect. So there's the science on that for you guys. What they're describing here, like this general concept, is like nothing that crazy. This is like a business practice that happens in medicine. It's harvesting active ingredients in a very weird way. And so while we're thinking just kind of more generally about this universe, we know obviously that there are minotaurs and humans in this universe, but this universe is kind of, or I guess this world is like a really inclusive world. So the area that Violet lives in is an area called Bridgeton, and the area that she works in is an area called Cambric Creek. Cambric Creek is like a little suburban kind of area, and Bridgeton is more like the city. And Violet's kind of realizing that she doesn't really like living in the city as much, and that she wants to move to like more of suburbia. But so this universe or this world kind of as a whole is interesting because we have humans and non-humans just kind of commingling and living together like everything's normal. There's no war in this world, at least not that we're privy to. There's no like huge comeuppance that anyone is really waiting to have. Like everyone is just existing very chill and very fun. So my whole point with bringing up like this area that she lives in and stuff and this world that they're in. So this world has, in addition to minotaurs and humans, it has all kinds of like hybrid people. So we have hybrid bird people, we have lizard people, we have insect people, and we have various kinds of mammal people. So there's a hyena person identified, there's a deer person identified. The bird and lizard people, they have like a talon salon that she notices at one point while she's in Cambric Creek, where one can go get their talons like polished. And then she sees a whole family of moth people. So Mothman is real in this book. In addition to like all of these hybrids, which I would consider the Minotaur as part of this hybrid group, we also have goblins, orcs, trolls, elves, gnolls, tieflings, harpies, and vampires in this world. So like we have like all of the monsters, all of the hybrids, like everyone is just kind of in this world chilling, living together. In some areas, the humans don't really like the hybrids as much and like the other monster types, and vice versa. So in the place in Cambric Creek where she works, this is mostly where like the hybrids and the monster types will stay versus like the area that her parents live in, because her parents do come up in this book a couple of times. They have a couple conversations with her. They live in an area that's predominantly humans. And so it sounds in this book like some people can really be like crappy towards the hybrids, and we don't take kindly to that in this book, and Violet does not take kindly to that, therefore we don't. So yeah, this is just kind of like a fun little tidbit about this world. But I was pretty excited when I saw that there were vampires in this book, and we do get a little bit of the lore on the vampires, which I will talk about when we actually meet our vampire in this book. We meet exactly one, therefore they are going on the list. Happy to say. But so, okay, flashback to where we were, right? Here she is, Violet's on her first day on the job. She is out here taking notes. She is memorizing the employee handbook. She is just doing the most. And after she's been there for a week, we kind of get this whole training montage of like, yeah, what all is happening. By the end of the first like week or so that she's been there, or at the start of the second week, we find that there are 3 different kinds of clients that typically come to these establishments. Technically there's 4, but really there's 3 that they'll encounter regularly. So they first have the earners. These are the Minotaur bulls who are there to earn money because they all get paid for what are called these milking sessions. They're the earners. They will cap out at their 24 ounces and they will make the full amount that they can. These are people who, like, their income is dependent on them doing this donation, if you will. The second type is called a clock watcher. The clock watchers tend to be like businessmen that do this on the side for like supplement or, whatever reason they may or may not have. But like the typical thing for these bulls are that they are typically on their way somewhere. They've either just come from work, they're going to work, they're on a lunch break for work. They just want to get in, get out, and just do their thing. It's very transactional for them. They're probably the most professional, I would say. And then the third category, it's so cursed. Like, I hate them so much. I didn't even have to like work with them.
What?
All I had to do was read about it. But they are called good little cows. And these are the bulls that like their technicians, so Violet, to dress up in like these different kinds of scrubs that they have. So at the place that she works at, they have 3 different kinds of scrubs. Lots of 3s in this book, but they have 3 different kinds of scrubs. They have your like regular schmegular nursing scrubs that are, I don't know, I'm assuming going to be like that powder blue color. You have these dairy farmer looking overall like scrubs that they can have, which I'm assuming is just like a regular scrub set, and it just has like a print on it. At least that's like kind of how it's described. They aren't actually wearing overalls, but yeah, they're like an overall type of scrub. And then the third one is like an alpine like milkmaid deal that has like the little like flower, and it's like black and white, and it's like a little alpine milkmaid. And some of the good little cows will request that their technician wear either the overall or like the milkmaid scrubs, which is so gross. I totally got one of the texts being like, "Ooh, I want to wear like the cute little alpine milkmaid scrubs today. Like, I'm going to feel really cute wearing that." That's a very different energy from like some bull coming up and being like, "Hey, will you put on those alpine milkmaid scrubs for me? Those really get me going." Like, like, it's only fun if I do it for myself, you know? It's like with makeup. It's only fun if I do it for myself. It's not fun if you do it once because someone's requested it. But I digress. So she's introduced to these three primary kinds of clients. The secret fourth kind that they do kind of allude to, but it doesn't really make it into like the official list that they present you. They're called the pop and goes. The pop and goes typically are like one or two off-timed people that will, like, it's either their first time or they just don't come in very often. And they tend to go quite quickly. Their milking process is expedited just because they're not used to the sensation. Apparently, it can be pretty intense for new people, and especially for like first timers. Sometimes their first attempt at collection won't be successfully collected by like the milking machine. So, and the milking machine is exactly what you think it is. It stimulates them until they produce the milk. Okay. So after Violet completes all of her training, she's kind of getting all of these notes, she's learning all of these things. It's time for her to handle her first client. And her first client, lucky for her, is a clock watcher. And what she's not prepared for, though, is she is just like instantly turned on by him. He doesn't say anything. He just kind of like loads himself into like these little like mating stocks that they have set up to do the collection. And he's like, "I'm on my lunch break." It's like, "I'm busy, you know, come on, let's get this show on the road." And she's like, "Yes, okay, sure, whatever." And she, you know, goes through her stuff as quickly as she can. But like the entire time, she is just becoming more and more turned on by this man. And she's like, "Oh no." She also like gets like grunts and stuff out of him, which she's like actively patting herself on the back for, because usually clock watchers don't have those kinds of reactions to this service, I guess, is the way to put it. And so not only is she turned on by him, but she thinks that he's turned on by her. That night when she goes home, she has a $100 tip waiting for her to like pick up from the counter that they'll stop by. Their clients can all tip them, and that's not like a big deal or anything. Most of them will get like $10 or $20 for an average service, but this clock watcher has given her a crisp $100 bill for the tip. So this is like way more than any of the other tips that she gets, and she's like really struck by this. And what appears to be the next day, it could very easily be the next week though, Violet has like a really unfortunate string of events. She like is having issues getting one of the bottles fitted onto the machine, and the Minotaur that's in there is like trying to give her some pointers because, you know, he's like a grown-ass man, and she's just like, "Oh my god, can you please not do this? Like I literally put these bottles onto this machine every day. Can we maybe like not pretend like you know what you're doing and like just let me do my freaking job without commentary?" But like she doesn't actually say that, of course, right? But so he's trying to be like nice and like give her some pointers, and she's thinking to herself like, "Can you please not do that?" And so she just picks up the other bottle, because they always give them two just in case something happens to one of them, like what's happening in this case. She just, instead of trying to use that bottle that wasn't working, she grabs another one. It threads immediately, and like they go on with their day. But because of that, she's been like put back a little bit like on her schedule, and then just like there's this whole and you've been there, right? When just like one thing has kind of gone wrong, you're now like maybe 2 minutes behind where you wanted to be, and then just like everything after that just starts going wrong. Like all of just these little things, not even like big things, right? It's like I'm running 2 minutes late getting out the door, and now my seatbelt won't buckle correctly. What the heck? There's a light out, and this is adding 2 more minutes onto my commute. Like there's just like, you know, all those little things that can just like build up to make you feel like, wow, I'm going to explode. That is kind of what happens to Violet that day. And much to her chagrin, honestly, Every single one of her clients is super understanding of this fact, and she's just like, and she's not having a good day, and the person who is supposed to manage all of their schedules also is not doing their job, and Violet almost misses a request to see her specifically, and her like trainer, they're a moth person, the moth person trainer is like sticking up for her. She's like, no, the person who is supposed to manage our schedules didn't do their job. This isn't on you, it's on them. Just make sure that you like get to this client because they wanted you. And that's what we do here. We provide a speedy collection with excellent service. So she's just having like this whole thing. And she's like, why would anyone request me? I'm like brand new here. This is weird. She finds out when she gets to that appointment with the request that it was the same clock watcher from before that had like given her these grunts that she was like super turned on by. And they have like this very normal conversation with each other. He asks a little bit about her life. She tells him a little bit about her life and, you know, tries to ask him about his. Doesn't really get very far with that. But she's just like super duper turned on. We then get like this little peek into what her family dynamic is like. So her mom calls her while she's like moving about in the world, going either to or from work one day. And she's like, her mom's like, oh, hey, did you know that nice boy down the street that you used to like? He's single. He's living at home now. You could jump on this if you want. And she's just like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to move back home. Like I got a degree so that I could like support myself and do what I wanted in this world. I don't really want to move home and marry the boy that you picked out for me. Like, thanks, but no thanks. And then flash forward like another few days, our mystery clock watcher man has come back, you know, kind of like right on schedule the following week for his next collection. During this collection, he is like pretty flirty with her. He's kind of chatting her up before he even sits down or like takes off his pants for the collection. And she and him talk about like where she lives, where he lives. She tells him that she lives in Bridgeton. And she like kind of describes exactly where she lives in Bridgeton. And like meanwhile in the back of her mind, she's like, oh, haha, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And like meanwhile, the bull that's sitting there is just kind of like lapping it all up. And he's flirting with her unequivocally, I would say, from the conversation that I read. They were definitely flirting. I have a quote for that. This is Violet speaking. I don't know why I thought this place was unique. So do all Minotaurs know about this? And he's answering, oh, they know all right. Most bulls do it. And if they haven't yet, believe me, they're thinking about it. There's no reason not to. Humans have commodified us, and the financial compensation for a natural bodily function is a no-brainer, especially once there's a mortgage to think about. Family men, forget about it. How else would they be able to afford to take the kids to Blinksy Land? May as well get paid for what's going down the shower drain every day. I hate that so much. I hate it. But yeah, in this conversation, his whole point is to like give her dating advice, which is funny, right? So he goes on and he says, so just remember that, he went on, shaking her from her filthy daydream. The next time a Minotaur tries chatting you up, ask which facility he uses. If he swears up and down that he's never been to a place like this, run away, because he's a liar. Like, I don't know about that one, Chief. Like, I get it, right? But who really wants to admit to doing this kind of work on the side? On either side, really, you know? Like, there's a lot of stigma about it for her, and I'm sure for the bulls, there's also a lot of stigma about it. He has recommended a coffee shop to her, and it happens to be the exact same coffee shop that she is absolutely spellbound by on all of her commutes. So one day, like very soon after this, Violet finally like plucks up the courage to try this coffee shop. And this is where she meets her new BFF, Gilly. Gilly is a vampire. Gilly is our gal. She's going on the list. Okay, so like rapid fire, the two things that we find out about vampires in this universe. 1, they can go outside while the sun is up. Cool. 2, they can drink things that are not blood. Gilly in this scene is drinking a tea. and she is like super British of some flavor. So that's cool. But this is like the only thing that we know about vampires, right? They can go outside in the day and they can have drinks that are not blood, i.e., tea. Gilly works at a restaurant that is for vampires. And what might a restaurant for vampires serve, you might ask? They serve blood, but they ethically source it from like donors that sign up to work at as like a bloodletter for the restaurant, which is kind of cool. They have like strict guidelines on what they can and can't do. So drinking, recreational drug use, diet, all of that kind of stuff. It's like really regulated, and it sounds like they take care of the donors, but yeah, that's like its own thing. So there are people are selling their bodies in different ways all over this book to like help others, I guess, and to help other species. And so after Violet meets Gilly and they become BFFs, which they immediately become BFFs, make no mistake, we effectively go through like this like milking montage. So Violet is just going to work, coming back from work, and going to work, and coming back from work, and going to work, and coming back from work. And she is just working to the max. She is a milking queen. If you have any milking needs, Violet is your gal. And during this whole montage, she's seeing this clock watcher guy every week, and they're like having more and more conversations. And finally, she sees him outside of work while she is getting coffee at the place where she met her BFF, Gilly. The same coffee shop that he recommended to her, mind you. And so she meets him there. Turns out Gilly knows him, and Gilly's like, "Hey, what's up, Rourke?" And then Violet is immediately like, "Zoop. This man's name is Rourke?" Okay. But so she finds out his name is Rourke at this point from Gilly, and she's just like going through this whole thing. Shortly after this, she finds out that someone in her family has passed away, and she takes bereavement for 2 weeks to go mourn the loss of this family member.
What a baby.
When she comes back to work, 2 weeks later, mind you, Rourke is immediately like, "What the hell? You left me in the awful hands, literally, of someone else." He's like, "I was shaved." Like, it's just so terrible. And I don't feel bad telling you this because they are literally on the front cover of the book together. But, and we're seeing it coming from a mile away, right? This is a romance book. This is a monster romance book. Rourke asks her on a date. He's like, "No, I'm never doing that again. Let's go on a date. I want to make you my girlfriend," or at least like start moving towards that. And so they go on a date. They go to the coffee shop that is like the one other place that exists in Cambric Creek, I'm convinced at this point. And he's like, "Hey, just so you know, I have a sweet tooth." Like, the fact that I know that this bull not only is like a businessman, not only like that he has friends in the community, and not only like this whole backstory that I haven't even begun to touch about him, this whole thing, like the fact that I know that our male main character has a sweet tooth, I feel like that's just more information than I'm really entitled to for what I was expecting going into a book entitled Morning Glory Milking Farms. Same thing with having a random family member death in this book. Like, what are you telling me? My smutty little Morning Glory Milking Farm by C.M. Nacosta book. What do you mean that this has elements of mourning in it? What do you mean that I'm going to know things about this man's personality that don't include just, length and width measurements? Like, what do you mean? This is crazy. Like, I think that this is crazy. But so after her 2-week bereavement leave, which like, that's generous. I've not seen that offered really anywhere. After her 2-week bereavement leave, she comes back. He's like, he's like angry about it at first until he finds out that she was off for bereavement. And he asks her on a date. They immediately go on said date because he has figured out, like, she told him when her last slot of the day was. And so he only books that slot to be her very last slot of the day. But so he asks her on this date. They immediately go on the date to the coffee shop that they, have both now been at, and that's like our central component to the story at this point. And he's just like, "Oh, by the way, I have a sweet tooth. I also have a human grandmother. I have humans in my family. And, you know, just like more little tidbits about this man that I never expected to learn, given that this is a smutty little book called Morning Glory Milking Farms. And then from there, I guess the rest of the book, which this is like maybe halfway, like not even quite halfway. From there, it's basically a fall in love montage. Obviously, there's a lot more going on because this is 250 pages of story, if you have forgotten. But yeah, at this point, they basically fall in love as a montage. And like Violet is able to achieve the goal that she sets at the beginning of this book of being able to get a new apartment and being able to move out of the crappy apartment that she's currently in and being able to have money as someone who did not have money before. She also ends up with her ultimate goal that seemed like pie in the sky. She is able to use her degree in a job that she is able to secure with the help of Rourke. And so this is like a huge departure from a lot of romance stories that I see, but Violet at the end of the story, like, oh my God, I gotta take you to the end of this book just to like show you what's going on. So at the end of the story, we kind of leave off on like this weird conversation between Rourke and Violet, but it is definitely a departure from how most of these romance books end. Typically, I would expect Violet to just move straight in with Rourke and for them to happily ever after at that point, but that is like not quite the case. And so let me read you this quote. So Violet is talking to Rourke. She says, "And Monday, I have to go sign papers for my apartment." Rourke jerked sharply at her words, but she was already working the nozzle down his engorged shaft, grinning at the deep low he let out. Oh, maybe this wasn't the best quote to pick. The green light clicked on as she milked his heavy balls, feeling the pulse of his eruption threading through them, as familiar as her own heartbeat.
What? What the fuck?
The white-filled bottle was tagged and placed in the corner.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious.
Before she hopped lightly up the short staircase, finding him still laying over the padded bench. "You got the job?" "I got the job," she confirmed, leaning in to meet his kiss. "He called just before I came into the room." "I hope that apartment is a short-term lease." And, you know, she goes through whatever, like, narration. "It's 1 year and then month to month." "Perfect." I'm sorry, that's so funny. Like, that's cute. I mean, okay, I love the boundaries of it all, right? She isn't just moving in with him directly. That's great. She's getting her own place to live for a year to, like, have her own, like, thoughts and space and, like, get closer to him. It's great on like a very on like most of these levels. It's great, but oh my God, it's 1 year and then month to month. Perfect. I wouldn't unpack everything if I were you. Like, yeah, no, for sure. I get it. I get it. That's very like, you know, cool and very romance main character of him, but that's so cursed. I literally can't with it. Like, ugh. It's just such a cursed way to end it. And just like, it's not, I'm not going to say that it's like unnecessary, but it is hilarious. And that's really that's one of the reasons why I wanted to review this book for you guys. I don't know if you can tell, this book, I would consider it quite cursed in an amazing way. I would definitely recommend reading it because I have not even like touched the surface of what exactly makes all of this so incredibly cursed in like the best way. But yeah, this is an amazing book. I would highly recommend it, especially if you want like a break. I chose to read this actually after reading the first Crescent City book. So I read this maybe a couple months ago, and I went through the book again today to clean up my thoughts and like get some fresh thoughts in there. But I read this after I read the first Crescent City book by Sarah J. Maas. That book is also really good, but I really wanted like a palate cleanser of sorts before I moved on to the second book.
Nice.
Usually I go for those like sentient object smut romances in between these, and I thought this was going to be that. And I was already committed by the time I realized it was 250 pages and after the squelch of it all. So I kept with it. I really liked it. I thought it was quite a light read. Like, I didn't really have to have like a bunch of critical thoughts while I was reading it. However, I will say if you just want something like light and fluffy, I did cry during this book. And like, I don't just cry for nothing. I cry a lot easier than a lot of other people do, I find, for as far as like book reading goes. But I did cry like real tears at one point in this book. It'll really take you there for emotion, you know? Highly recommend. It's very cursed, but it's also very enjoyable. Hey, thanks for sticking around, and I will see you in the next one. Hopefully it'll be very soon. I don't know. The next recording that I plan to make is for either The Ashes in the Star-Cursed King or for Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. And then once we do both of those books, then it's time for the Twilight and Midnight Sun tandem reading. I'm so excited. I love Twilight. I have so many plans for this. It'll probably be like a multi-parter to get the book out because I literally did Silver Elite in like 3.5 hours. And that is 1/3 of the length of both of those novels combined. So it's going to be multi-part and it's going to be amazing. And I'm so excited to read them as a tandem read. I am excited to share my reactions with you guys. It's going to be a full reaction. So stay tuned. Lots of good stuff coming. And then, yeah, we're just going to keep amassing our vampire list. So we're going to keep reading about vampires. So please be sure to like this video if you like it. Let me know in the comments if you didn't like it. Let me know why. And please remember to subscribe. As always, if you have any vampire book recommendations that you'd like to see go on our list of vampire rankings, just let me know right down in the comments and I will be sure to put it on there. I will also shout you out. So be my friend on Storygraph or don't. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
May as well get paid for what's going down the shower drain every day.
I hate that so much.